It's 7 o'clock in Southern California, and that is just way too much duplexing. So it must be 7 o'clock. That happened. And it's time for the Thursday Night D-Star Roundtable for August 17th, 2017. This is Mike in 6HKH, your net control. This roundtable is held every Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. That's 0200 UTC on XRF002 Alpha and a constellation of X reflectors, including XRF310A, XRF555 Alpha, and our multi-protocol XLX212 Alpha. This is a technical net dedicated to D-Star and Open Digital Systems. It's a group effort. To join the discussion, start a topic, or ask a question, key up when I call for stations. But please remember, do not quick key or tailgate. I will pause regularly to let you key up, and I ask that participating stations do the same. We don't take formal check-ins or do a roll call just to give us more time to talk D-Star Tech. Now, Net Control is online at roundtable.tech, T-E-C-H. Just put that in the address bar of your favorite browser, Roundtable, all one word, .tech, T-E-C-H. There you will find the Roundtable Forum Board's real-time chat feature called Shoutbox, which you can use to contact me as well as to post information relevant to the topic at hand, such as links and quick notes. We ask stations offering a web address in conjunction with their presentation to post the URL or DNS in the shoutbox so that those listening now or later can link to that website or document location. Again, the URL is roundtable, all one word, .tech, T-E-C-H. There you will learn a lot more about this net, the constellation of X reflectors, and ways to listen live and recorded to this roundtable. Now, to close of tonight's net, the shout box that usually fills up, we only have one entry now, but it is a pretty good one, although it seems to be a bit hot and muggy of a post. They will be moved to the Shoutbox history, which is above the general roundtable discussion board. So those listening by recording can go there to see what it is that got posted, what the controversy was about, or what we were discussing that was posted on the Shoutbox. Of course, podcast listeners get the Shoutbox downloaded automatically. I'm going to call for announcements first. Stations with announcements for tonight's roundtable, please key up now. Well, hearing none, didn't see any. Let's go right to the Shoutbox post. We have one from KE0AYJ. Later on, I would ordinarily, but not tonight, would call for reports from ham fairs and hamventions. It looks like we have a regular participant hanging around Huntsville for reasons that are beyond me when it's that hot and muggy, but there is a pretty cool hamvention going on, so I'm going to call for stations who would like to report on the Huntsville Ham Fair or Hamvention or however they call it. Maybe you can correct me on that. Stations, please key up.
KE0AYJ.
Well, what a shock. KE0AYJ. Well, Andy, welcome. What's the report?
Hot and muggy, just like I said, and all the parking lots are packed. The camper areas are packed. I'm surprised there's that many people down here, but I guess this is really a big one. This is the first time I've ever been to this one down here. But it's packed. They're moving stuff into the area, I guess, over there. I went by, looked at it, so I won't get lost in the morning going over there. Cousin's going with me. They live down here, so he wanted to take a look around at it and see what it's all about, maybe become a ham. But we'll see what we can do on that. Other than that, absolutely nice green area, but hot and muggy. I mean, I'm ready to leave here now. I'll need another shower tonight before I go to bed. I don't doubt that a bit.
Well, I take it opens up, tomorrow, so you're just there early because you like to be hot and bothered? What's on the agenda, and just how big is it?
Well, it looks to be pretty big. I mean, with all these vehicles here, and I see ICOM, I see a bunch of vehicles that were there earlier. Like I said, I drove by to make sure I don't get lost going there in the morning. I'll probably get there about 10:30 or so. I gotta stop for breakfast and stuff. Me and the dogs and the new motorhome are down here. And yeah, there's other things on the agenda. I'm looking at some property up in northern Georgia. I'm gonna stop by there on the way back. I'll be there for approximately a day and a half, looking at that. So we decided to get down here early, hook up with my cousin, hash old times out and things like that. All that's squared away now, and back at the campsite. And the neighbors got a little bit of campfire going, and I guess looks like they're doing hot dogs or something. I can't tell. Absolutely quiet here. No kids in the campground. Yay. Okay, back to Net.
All right, Andy, thanks for that, and have a good time. Perhaps next Thursday you can give us a roundup of what you found. You know, it's interesting where the big vendors show up at seemingly national, well, more, let's say, regional ham fairs and hamventions, and then don't show up at other regional ones or even national ones. And I just don't get it, but I'm glad that they're there, and I'm glad you're there. So we'll see how that goes. Any other reports from any other ham fairs or hamventions that we need to know about? Please key up.
ZL2RO.
ZL2RO. Phil, thanks for jumping in. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, guys. And I just wanted to say afternoon here from New Zealand, and quite happily listening to you guys. I just finished work, so I just thought I'd say hello and thank you very much for what's been done for 626 and Module C. So I just wanted to say that. Over.
Well, we always appreciate the kind words, and thanks for being with us. So, I guess Huntsville's about it on the agenda. Of course, if ICOM, Yasu, and some of the others are there, that's probably the one to watch for this weekend. Taking a look at the shout box, or that is actually the D-Star Roundtable Forum Board. I didn't see any new discussions or topics that were started in current discussions, and I haven't seen any other more recent posts. If there are some, feel free to bring them to my attention after I key, but absent anything else, we'll just not worry about that. But I would bring to everybody's attention just the fact that nobody seemed to have posted anything in the past week on the forum board doesn't mean that it's not worthy of your attention, because there is a long history of topics and things of interest, both in the general discussion boards, the references and links, is just a ton of stuff there. And in the Open Digital System file sharing and how-tos, that's fairly recent, and that's worthy of your notice. And when you get a chance, the Roundtable Forum Board, of course, is up 24/7. You don't have to look at it this minute, but you're welcome to, as well as information on the landing page at the very top about this net, the Kings of Digital System, the constellation of X reflectors, and all kinds of other good stuff. It's probably worth your while to sign up, that is to register for the forum board, for a number of reasons. One is that while you can take a look at most everything that's there without having to sign up, signing up gets you the ability to post in areas other than a shout box. A shout box, of course, is open to everyone. Just please use your call sign. And it also gives you the ability to quickly scan through it, determine what's new, what's not, and you only get that when you're registered. Nothing bad happens. We don't do anything with it. It's just there. You guys probably know about Pro Boards. They don't sell the list, and it's usually good to go. I know that you need to prove that you're not a robot or a computer, but that annoying stumbling block, sometimes it seems, is part of just about anything you sign up for anymore. All right. Let's check to see if there are any follow-ups to last week's discussions. This is when we give those that perhaps listened to this net on the podcast or by recording, and they'd like to add some of their thoughts to topics we discussed last week, or those stations that carried a discussion that perhaps have a correction to make or new information to add to it. This is the time for it. Stations, please key up. Well, not hearing anything or seeing anything, we'll just mosey right along. And any new YouTube videos or PowerPoint presentations or juicy websites that have content that we should watch that you'd like to bring to everybody's attention? Let's take it now. Please key up.
KE0A.
KE0AYJ, go ahead.
No, Mike, nothing really juicy. Just wanted to relay something I got in the email here the other day for the people that might be interested in it. The ICOM 7610 apparently has been delayed through the FCC, and it looks like it's going to be late November to late December before it's available. Just an FYI out there. Hope I didn't ruin anybody's Christmas.
Well, you didn't ruin mine. It's not on my list, and I haven't spent any money on it. So the 7610 is what kind of radio? Go ahead.
Oh, it's HF, 6 meters through HF, up to 30 stuff. But it's replacing the 7600, and it's the newest upgrade to the 7600 and 7610, of course. True dual receivers and things like that. And I was chomping at the bit, hoping to get a hold of one. So I made a reservation, and then I got an email saying, "Oh, we're sorry, it's been delayed by the FCC." So, story of my life. I'll just have to grin and bear it. But there you go for anybody else that might have been contemplating one of those. Hold off a little bit. Let's see what develops and see if they can't give us something better.
Well, delays are seemingly pretty common, certainly from ICOM. And I know that there's been a lot of discussion about the radio now that you've reminded me what it is. There's been a lot of chatter on the bands ever since ICOM announced it was going to deploy an update to the 7600. And a number of people threw their money and name and call sign in on getting one. Lists have been created. So, well, we'll see. All right, so anything else about new gear or devices that we should be discussing? Please key up. No response to that. So any software or firmware that we should consider that you guys have stumbled across and is worthy of mention, please let the rest of us know about it. Key up now.
K6FED.
K6FED, thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mike and Annette. Yeah, Mike, I didn't get a chance to chime in when you asked about new gear. ICOM is putting out from what I understand, the ID31 plus 2 at the end of the month. But the real reason I keyed up was the not KA7, PA7LIM David has released another version, beta version of the Blue DV software, which is 9421 version. And that one allows you to, it has Vox capability. And I've been kind of playing with it a little bit. It's a little bit sensitive, but really a nice feature to have on the Thumb DV if you're doing D-Star or DMR.
Indeed. Actually, it seems that David, PA7LIM, has been popping out updates to the Blue DV for Windows, which, the caption for all the messages in the Groups I.O. that he posts is always Blue DV for Windows, supporting Thumb DV and the DV3000U, and I just found it. It says, I just uploaded a new version of Blue DV for Windows, 9421, that supports Vox. I also tuned the voice again with looks like a screenshot of the AMBE control, including a Vox button. Hey, what do you know? Oh no, actually, it's actually the Vox controller device. It looks like, including Vox and mic. So it's not. I don't know if it's just Vox or just added Vox to it, but it looks trick. And I'm glad that he's cranking stuff out. I think the Blue DV for Windows is catching on. I hear a lot of stations talking about it. So thanks for that update. And it would be cool if someone would post the URL for this Groups I.O. for those interested in getting into and reading more about and seeing what's going on with Blue DV for Windows. And we'll see if that appears in the shout box anytime soon. All right, appreciate it, Frank. Anyone else with any news on software, firmware for devices or applications, please key up.
K6KD.
And John, K6KD, I'm glad you're awake. Go ahead.
Still awake, Mike. Good evening to you and the net. This software isn't, it's maybe about 3 months old, but I thought I'd mention it anyway because with some of the other upcoming things that will be happening, there might be some interest in some of these, in some of the multi-mode images, particularly with DMR Gateway. If the MMDVM host has been out for a while, and it's a very popular image, very popular on the Raspberry Pi. DMR Gateway is relatively new and provides some additional features. It is available in 2 popular images, and I'll post some information in the shout box: the KB5RAV image and the Pi Star image. Both of those have it. So, anyway, just a heads up. I think a lot of people will find that either of those, pretty useful along with the OpenSpot. Anyway, back to net, K6KD.
All right, John, thanks for that. Yeah, those running MMDVM hosts, I mean, there's now there's several choices. Frank, let me go back to K6FED. I wrote something down here. It could be just my delirious condition, but you said there was an ID 31 plus 2. That's what I wrote down. That can't be right. K6FED. Is that right, or what were you talking about? Go ahead.
Yes, Mike, that is correct. I belong to one of the Facebook ICOM groups, and that's what they have posted on ID 31 plus 2. From what the little flyer said, it should be coming out at the end of August. Over.
Really? why would they provide a new model of the ID31A? It just doesn't, and I'm searching for it. I don't see it. I see the ID51A plus 2 is coming out in green leaf and brown soil and dirt gray colors, and the 51A plus 2 handheld transceiver, you can buy it with now fluorescent pinstriping, but I don't see anything about that. Well, look, ID31A people who are, thinking about upgrading, unnecessarily so, of course, here's your chance to stand by and stick with the tried and true and not get trapped into the ID51A world. Of course, I'm kidding, because there's nothing wrong with the ID51. Well, at least not some of the older versions of the. I don't know what to think about the ID51 plus 2. I just makes me nervous. Anyway, all right, appreciate it. We'll keep our eyes peeled for that. Any other updates, software, firmware? We'll even take new devices if that's come to mind. I mean, who knows what has been announced that we should keep our eyes on, that has been flown in some of the auto groups or IO groups or who knows where. Please keep up.
ZL2RO.
ZL2RO, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Nick Control. Excuse me. Something that's new to me. I don't know. It's probably been, I don't know how long it's been around. It's that repeaterbuilder.com. The RB STM30 DVM boards. They look really quite cool. Something different, I believe, for high-powered hotspots. You probably know people listening probably know what I'm talking about. But it's something that runs the MMDV host on a Pi 3 or 2, and something looks quite interesting. I just thought I'd bring that to your attention. It's an official product of Spot Zooming. So yeah, it's just something new I've come across. Over.
I missed this. So what's the name of the device or the board that is coming out again? ZL2RO, go ahead.
Yeah, I believe it's already out. It's a RB-STM32-DVM, and it's come out via a place called repeater-builder.com. repeater-builder.com. Over.
Alrighty, well, I haven't heard of it, but that doesn't mean anything. It might be interesting if someone could post perhaps again, I love the shout boxes. You can post these websites and we can all jump to it. It takes away the ambiguity, and especially for those that aren't familiar with something, it becomes more difficult to understand sometimes because you're looking for what you know. And but if we can post maybe a link or something, and people can keep track of it, and especially if someone picks it up and puts it to use, we can get a report on it. All right, appreciate it, Phil. Thank you. Anyone else? Please key up. All right, didn't see or anybody, so we'll move on. We have, well, that was me bumping into the mic. If you heard a thud there, let me move the mic back, move back a bit, because I'm moving into the desk more to get into the meat of tonight's net. So, the D-Star QSO Party 2017 has been announced and happening September 22nd, beginning at 000 UTC Friday, which, that's 2 hours ahead of when we would start. that day, I think. Yeah, it's Thursday. Oh, well. And runs through Sunday at, again, midnight, 2400 or 00 UTC. Well, it's correct, 2400. The 24th, so you got 2 days of D-Star Fun and Games. It's ICOM's way of, I guess, slapping around all the other contests that do not include D-Star or ignore D-Star. So the goal is of this D-Star QSO party, again, this is a private one. It's run by ICOM, for those not familiar with it. It's been around for quite some time. The prizes when this particular contest or QSO party first began were spectacular. They had a number of HTs, and now they're handing out one radio. And then, I guess you can fight your way for the stainless steel thermal mug, the always popular ICOM logo cap, and maybe they might even give away some ICOM impressed big pins. But here's the rub, and this is why I have myself some difficulty with it, is that the goal of the D-Star QSO party is to communicate through as many D-Star repeaters as possible throughout the world. And they have a point system involving QSO points and multipliers. It specifically excludes reflectors. And even, I think, even if they were to say, all right, we'll let a reflector in, which, when you think about it, doesn't make any sense, but it certainly would not include the X reflectors, given ICOM's attitude towards open systems in D-Star, which of course the X reflectors are and the REF reflectors are not, but it doesn't matter because it's just repeaters. So, to qualify for a prize, you need to contact more than 10 amateurs through at least one repeater in your own country, and then it goes up from there. It does include just about every band that you can operate in DV mode. Going from 28 megahertz all the way up through to 1.2 gig, and simplex, but simplex is limited to 28 megs and 50 megs. So so you got 28, 50, 70, 144, 430, and 1200 with simplex and 28 and 50 megs. So in other words, the people with 7100s and other D-Star capable radios, where they have the ability to operate to DV on HF, the 9100, come to think of it, I think they're all ICOM radios. There's a 7100, 9100, there may be others. So there's that. And I believe that after the conclusion of the roundtable, which we began Thursday here on the West Coast, which we realize is actually Friday in other parts of the world, that the constellation will be utilized as, I guess, part of a contact point or to discuss the QSO party. You can't use any reflector to get points, but, we can certainly, check out. I mean, if you've got some hot repeater and, well, I'm not sure what would go on, come to think of it. So any comments on the D-Star QSO party? I'm not putting it down. I know a lot of people like it, participate in it. I did when it first came out. My interest has dwindled, but that doesn't mean anything. Stations, please key up. Alrighty, well, apparently it's just about as popular as, I think it is. Well, look, who am I to say? Let me just note that, we discussed this and that, nobody responded. Maybe there is nothing to respond to it. Does anybody dispute that you can't use a reflector to make contacts with repeaters and simplex only, or am I missing out on something? Key up, please. No response. Well, we'll see what happens after. It's a month away, but I just wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, especially for those that, you got Labor Day, and so September's a busy month. So make your plans for it, especially if you get a lot of D-Star repeaters in your area, or you can, I suppose you could take a repeater gateway and try to link it to another repeater's gateway, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Perhaps some tips and tricks can be offered up by experienced participants in the ICOM D-Star QSO party about how to add repeaters to the list. It seems to imply that you're going to be sitting on one repeater hoping to catch stations. You just call out for as many as you can and hope that some foreign stations connect to the gateway of that repeater and offer you repeater contact and point. And there are other ways to go about making it worthwhile. All right, just now that I've talked about it a little bit more, anything further on the D-Star QSO party, it's about 1 month away, a little bit more than that. Please key up. Nothing there. So I want to I want to thank K6FED and K6KD for posting the information concerning the topic and the updates that they talked about. Recently, they put it on the shout box so we can all have it there to take a look at. Well, I guess the big event coming up is a solar eclipse when the moon will block out the sun. And, I've read some pretty dramatic discussions. The day will plunge into the night. Birds will stop singing. Crickets will stop chirping. And many people will gasp, weep, or even howl when they see the sun's corona shimmering in the darkened sky. That is a quote from Government Tech Disaster Preparedness, an article where it concerns itself with the solar eclipse creating a once-in-a-lifetime road hazard, which I thought was pretty interesting. Transportation officials, as this report goes, are worried not only about massive traffic jams, but potential crashes that could result from drivers focusing on the skies and not the road. Don't stand on the interstate, they warn. Don't pull your car over, they order. Don't take a selfie from a bridge, they warn. The risk of driver distraction from this once-in-a-lifetime event has never been greater. We don't want anyone to have and here's the pun, eclipse in judgment. So, with solar eclipse coming up, there's the Solar Eclipse QSO party that the ARRL has been advertising seemingly unendingly. And there's all kinds of amateur radio communications resources that will be officially put to use, none of which, of course, include D-Star. And that's part of what I wanted to see some discussion about. There's been a number of articles, including several that were part of today's ARRL newsletter, as well as postings from ARRL and all over the place. And they all involve and direct that communications, whether it be emergency or just to cover a communications failure or whatever they think is going to happen, maybe the world's going to collapse, everything is on HF. Everything. Shame. Stations, please key up.
KE0.
KE0, AYJ, go ahead.
Well, we've heard a lot about the eclipse going on, and everything's going to bring your retinas, and the glasses are free. The glasses cost $10. Don't use welding glasses. Get one for your dog, and what have you. But emergency management in my area decided that we're going to activate. They think that the cell phone systems are going to be inundated with people texting back and forth and requesting pictures and everything like that goes back and forth. It might possibly bring down the cell phone system. I personally can't imagine that, but you know what? They signed a paycheck, so that's good enough for me. We'll wait and see what happens. I do think there's going to be some impact, but I don't think it's going to be that extreme. Things like that. Might be a little bit of latency, and the internet for those hotspots might have problems in those areas. But I don't really foresee anything catastrophic happening like that, other than a lot of trips for people that didn't follow simple instructions and put the glasses on before they looked at it.
Well, I'm going to presume that the people that participate in this net would not be crazy like those numbskulls who do not participate in this net. Well, for that matter, they're not licensed. And would look directly at the sun, peeking at it until it's a full eclipse, and then just staring at it. I'm sure we're going to have the hospitals are going to be full of people with eyes that are, about ready to pop out, bloody, who knows what, can't see, people, walking out into traffic because everything's dark because they're idiots. And what's really sad, of course, is all the fake or non standard viewing glasses that are the cardboard fold out with a piece of film. I mean, there are legitimate ones all over the place, but apparently there's some illegitimate ones that don't meet minimum standards. And if you use them, it's just about like putting on a pair of sunglasses, which of course will not cut it. So, is anybody involved in either an amateur radio communication response or participation during Eclipse Day that involves D-Star? And the reason I ask is that every article I searched, in the Salvation Army, Saturn Network, which I thought busted up, but apparently is back in operation, they'll activate on HF. ARRL's business is happening on HF. FEMA is going to be operating on 5 megahertz 60 meter band. Contingency plans that are set up that involve ARRL and other sections and on down to the lowest level of MCOM participants all plan to use nets on 40, 60, and 80 meters. And apparently there's no thought to going digital. No thought to putting the reflectors to use. No thought to passing traffic or setting up a communication system involving D-Star. And it irks me. So, what did I miss? Please key up. AJ3X, welcome. Go ahead.
Good evening. I just dialed into the reflector and I caught the tail end of your statement. Here on the East Coast in Maryland, we're running a Eclipse Net on reflector 62 alpha, on reflector 62 alpha on the 21st, and that's for the Mid-Atlantic area. Over.
Well, Joe, you made my day. I appreciate hearing that. And as has been posted, the 100 Watts on a Wire group, which holds their net here on the Constellation, will have a solar net on, this reflector. It'll be on the Constellation. It'll be stations reporting in about their, whatever they see or what's going on. but you know, and I presume that there will be a fair number of repeaters and reflectors that people have offered up, or hope that people will participate in using them to talk about what they see. And I guess if there's bedlam, mayhem, the aliens use this as a chance to try to sneak in the cover of darkness or something, that they'll get those reports on their local repeaters and reflectors. But as far as emergency communications setup, I just don't get the preference for HF. In fact, in some instances, there's a real question about whether the national HF communication capability will be, such as to support emergency communication, to handle traffic overload that is communication overload, or if normal communication infrastructure is disrupted, to replace it. I mean, I can't think of a worse mode to use for that. Of course, you're listening here on a D-Star and other open system digital mode net, but still, why, where's D-Star? Where's digital in these, in as part of the communication resource planning that is just all over the place? As long as you are willing to operate HF, I mean, it's just, I don't get it. What's going on? What am I missing here? Stations, please, Kia. AJ3X, go ahead.
Well, here in our area, we use exclusively D-Star for EMCOM, or emergency communications, at least in Baltimore County and in 2 surrounding counties here in Maryland. We use D-Star. We use DRATS, and we also use the old ICOM ID1 for data transfer. HF we use to contact other areas of the state, but primarily in Baltimore County and 2 surrounding counties, it is probably 98% D-Star. Over.
So in the North Atlantic area, people know that if they need to set up communications infrastructure for their solar eclipse, or for that matter, whatever, they go to your reflector 062 alpha. I missed if it's REF or XRF. Maybe you can let me know. Back to you, Joe.
Mike, you dropped out. I heard the word reflector, and that's about all I heard. Could you repeat, please? Over.
I'm sorry about that. Reflector 062 alpha, is it REF, XRF? I mixed that part.
Zero 062 alpha is the channel on the reflector that we'll be using. It's also the channel we use for our nets. 62 Charlie is our primary channel. 62 Foxtrot we use as an emergency channel. We also run an XLX reflector here, XLX 62, here in Baltimore County in Maryland, also, that we use for emergency communications. Over.
Got it. Glad to hear it. It seems to me, and I'll stand to be corrected, and, usually I put this in the prelude to the beginning of the net. I take no offense to corrections, and if I misstate something, or you want to challenge something that you hear by me or another station, feel free to do so, because I want to get out the correct information, not wanting to guess. We don't do that here. We don't speculate. At least we try to avoid it. But doesn't it make more sense I mean, there's like 5, 6, 7 pages of where on HF to go if you're going to be part of this. Let me get the phraseology right. Nationwide communication link for local and regional communications failure during the solar. So, you know, 062, that reflector, anybody can connect to it throughout the world. Now, I realize that, you know, reflectors are identified by region or location, and the guys, I mean, I don't think there's, you know, anybody that just wants to sit on a national, well, I guess there are one's an example, maybe, but still. Wouldn't it make more sense to say, all right, cell service is down, the phone line's burned up, you know, people are riding in the streets, and we need communications. Why not just have the hams connect to a reflector? Or, better yet, have a series of X reflectors that are interconnected ahead of time from coast to coast, and it's over. You want to talk? Fine. Now, you know, I understand it's separate from all of this. There's a lot of HF testing to see what, you know, the effect of the eclipse is going to have on propagation and HF communications. That is not what we're talking about here. Instead, you got guys dragging out all this gear and going to these different bands, hoping that it isn't static crashed, hoping that the bands are, you know, the conditions will support those bands, when there's not an issue with D-Star. Am I wrong? Stations, please key up.
W6KBM.
W6KD recognized. Our friend Ted V780E is already saying that gas stations have already run out or low on fuel. Well, but they were resupplying. You know, I don't get it. You know, well, I guess it's all fun, but it wouldn't be a great solar eclipse if people weren't frightened 5 days ahead of time. It's a bit early, but, you know, I bet there are people digging out bunkers right now as we speak just in case. The solar eclipse causes Monstra and Godzilla to, you know, to rise from the oceans. I mean, or wherever they're buried or hang out. But yeah, that's fun. But still, on a serious note, W6KD, Bob, thanks for being with us. Well, why wouldn't you? Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that my Y2K shelter, my Y2K bomb shelter is available for rent for anybody that is interested. It includes some, 20-year-old, MRE rations and all-you-can-eat MREs, and it does have a backup generator and cyanide tablets in case the consequences and just the stress of the whole thing is too much to bear. So people can contact me via the shout box if they're interested.
Bob, I appreciate that offer. I did get a note here just a moment ago. Somebody apparently not too far away and reading the shout box texted me. I don't know why they wouldn't post it on the shout box. At one of the local Army Navy stores, where you can buy soldiers' boots and you look for that one perfect helmet or the one better yet with a bullet hole in it. And they're selling out of helmets, gas masks, or some of these Army Navy retail stores. Their gas masks look suspiciously new and possibly from China, but that's beside the point. They're just selling, and generators are starting to move out of the Home Depot and Lowe's and other home improvement stores. I guess there are no more shovels to be found at Ace Hardware. But, we're kind of skipping around the point. when is D-Star going to flex its muscles and say, hey, something like this, not in all circumstances, but let's just say all hell breaks loose and there's a collapse of the infrastructure, at least along the solar eclipse path, this total eclipse path. It just seems that somebody could set up 3, 4 or so X reflectors, XLX reflectors, link them with something that REF can't do. Have guys there ready to go with radios and hotspots, and anything can be passed. And you can set up several of those. What's with all the HF stuff? Stations, please key up.
K6KD.
K6KD, go ahead.
Well, on some of the websites, they are reporting that there are groups of people who are planning to coordinate using DMR to during periods of darkness to destroy some statues. So just thought I'd pass that on.
Aha. So, identity politics has found its way into amateur radio. So the alt-left is DMR and the alt-right is D-Star. Well, I have to keep my eyes on that one. I wouldn't, I would hope that nobody would coordinate, destruction using D-Star reflectors. I mean, I guess they can do whatever they want over in DMR, but, well, thanks for the heads up, John. We'll have to keep our ears, open for that. Stations. It's solar eclipse time. Where are the D-Star reflectors and repeaters? And what plans have you made to keep yourself safe, but on the air on the 21st? Stations, please key up.
Oh, the E7LEE.
V7LEE. Welcome and go ahead.
Thank you there, Mike. This is E7LEE. I've been planning for this for 6 months. I didn't book my RV site because they were full. Well, you couldn't book them 6 months ago. And so since then, the whole world has found out about it. So I'm preparing tomorrow to go down to Oregon. I phoned the police station in some of these small towns like Dallas, Oregon, Staten, Oregon. I said, I'm a self-contained RV. Can I drive down there and park on the street? They said, no, we're going to block off all the streets. Only residents can park on the street. Everyone else must park in an approved area. And of course, the approved area, the price is $250, which is a deal for the weekend. And then I said, okay, I'll bite and I'll come down Saturday and I'll go to work. Well, I was trying to come down Sunday, start my journey on Saturday. So, oh no, you better come down Friday because it's going to be gridlock traffic. And so what I have done, I should do a reset here. This is V7LEE using my DV4 Mini. I will bring my DV4 Mini with me and my laptop computer and to give me a hotspot, providing that the cellular infrastructure network is working. And so I can surf the net and get, because unfortunately I'll be out of range of most D-Star, of any practical repeater, not even D-Star, so I got to bring my hotspot. So then they say, buy extra food, bring water, bring gasoline. So I have a pickup truck, so in my trailer, I will, before I get into Oregon, I guess I will gas up, or far away, probably Portland, gas up, buy food, and bring water, extra jugs of water, And so I will be self-contained for 3 to 4 days there, Mike. And there was a write-up about almost had a riot in the store in Idaho of a store running out of bananas and was lighting up. He wanted bananas, and a lot of people were upset over that. This is VE7LEE.
Well, I suppose you can never have enough bananas. It seems to me that 3 to 4 days of provisions is a bit much for a 2 to 7 minute, depending upon where you are in its path, event. Although it may be that the emergencies the police may have to deal with might start the day before as people start looting stores to prepare as if that North Korea is going to press the button and launch or something ridiculous like that is going to happen. There's an asteroid hurtling towards Earth, or that in fact the moon is not going to continue on and move away from the sun, or whatever other imaginary ill may befall us. Frankly, I'd like to be in the path and give a watch, but I'm going to do like a lot of people are going to do. There's a gazillion websites. Well, that's a bit of an exaggeration. There's millions of websites that are going to provide all kinds of video that I can watch at the time. I can record, play back later. I can, watch the past. Even some of the apps, the weather apps that I have on my phones are saying, oh, we're going to tell you about the path. NASA announces a television event. So, and of course, I'll get a partial eclipse, and I'll step outside to take a peek at that. But so far, in the solar eclipses that I've heard or read about, I don't think anything bad has happened. But you can never be prepared enough, I suppose. Anyway, Ted, thanks for chiming in. Now, because I wasn't terribly clear on this, beginning Monday, the 21st, I mean, that's the only day of the solar eclipse, unless there's another one I missed out on. The guys at 100 watts on a wire are going to be here on the constellation of X reflectors, same place that you're listening now, with a net that will begin at 9 a.m. Pacific, which would be 12 noon Eastern, just prior to the start of the eclipse in Oregon, and will run until just after 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern, after the moon's shadow passes off of the coast of South Carolina. And everyone that's on the path of the eclipse, this is the purpose of this. Just a minute. So anyway, Jeff, VE6DV, and the fine people at 100 watts on a wire are asking that everyone in the path of the eclipse, as well as those wishing to keep up to date with events as they happen, are encouraged to link their D-Star repeaters, access points, dongles, etc. to this constellation here, and share what it is that is happening in your area, with others participating in the net. So, this is a great opportunity for those that perhaps may be in an area with which they're unfamiliar. Perhaps they've already realized that the local D-Star repeater is going to be jammed, or more likely will be, burned up when the eclipse hits their area. And so this gives you the capability of coming over here and reporting that, and what things are going on. It could be from how the eclipse was received in your area to what the nutcases are engaging in your part of the country that you're parked out at to watch the solar eclipse. So, be sure to come here. I mean, I'm going to have it on. Of course, I try to have the constellation on most of the time. So, further comments. We just, we need more stories. And more importantly, if there's other D-Star things happening as a result of the solar eclipse, seemingly not part of any kind of MCOM thing, except, of course, XRF 062A. Let me know. It's fun to hear about this. Stations, please key up. Well, I didn't see or hear anything, so, would anybody like to talk about their plans? We had a few stations last Thursday told us about, it seems like Nashville, for some reason, is the ground zero for a lot of hams for various reasons. It looks like they're actually catering to the amateur radio community. Of course, I can't say that they're not catering to everybody that might have some interest in the solar eclipse, but is there a particular spot that you've thought that might keep you away from the whack jobs that are going to be running around with their shirts on fire and claiming that the eclipse is causing chasms in the ocean and that the seas are bubbling and all that biblical stuff? It might be, well, then again, if you disclose where you're going and you think you're going to be in solitude, which is unlikely, but still, why would you tell us here? But look, this is kind of a cone of silence net anyway, and I don't think anybody will pay any attention, so help us out. Stations, please key up. All right, well, I guess that's enough for the solar eclipse, and, I'll be hanging in here from the beginning to the end. I'm not moving from my chair. I'm going to be watching it remotely, digitally, poking my head out to see the partial that we're going to get here in Southern California. But otherwise, I'm going to be listening. It's going to be fun. I will not be on HF. Don't expect to catch me there. So, an interesting question did come my way. By the way, if you have topics that you'd like to have discussed, you can post them on the shout box during the week. The thing's open 24/7. We don't clean it out until after the end of the roundtable. Or you can send me an email. It's no secret, n6hkh@me.com. I'm on Twitter. All that information is on the landing page of the Roundtable Forum Board at roundtable.tech, T-E-C-H. But here's one. I wanted to listen to what's happening in Barcelona on D-Star. I could not find a Barcelona-based D-Star reflector that I could listen to that might serve as a base of communications, stations reporting what they've heard, used as a communications point for whatever reason. Is it because everybody was on Twitter? Is it that Barcelona doesn't have any reflectors? Is it that, I don't speak Spanish? So, the larger question is, all right, something bad happens or important or, earth-shattering occurs in a part of the world with which you're not familiar or you're not presently there. How would you go about finding reflectors which may carry interesting traffic from that part of the world? Stations, please key up. All right, no response. I guess that station is just out of luck. Well, what do you guys want to talk about? Open topics, open questions. Here you go. Please key up now.
KE0AYJ.
KE0AYJ. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I just went by that advertisement that was talked about earlier about the ID 31A plus. They're doing apparently right here at the last day of August in Japan, and they're waiting to see if there's going to be any release in the United States. The first release is going to be over there, 31A plus. It looks to be, well, there's not much difference between it and the 51A. Except they've got some material left over. It reminds me of when they came out with the, what is it, 7210 or 7200, and they come out with 7300, and they discontinued the 7200 on this HF radio now, Mike, so bear with us. And then all of a sudden they found they had a reserve of parts for 7200, so they came out with it again until they do a closeout. And I'm wondering if that's what they're doing with the 31A. Possibly burning up some inventory there. Back to net.
All right, we're having station difficulty here. Just everybody stand by while I do a reboot on one computer. All right, let's see if we're back. Yeah, there we go. Back. Well, I didn't mean to reboot the computer. I meant the program crashed. Actually, a couple programs crashed. I think I should spend my time tomorrow at Best Buy or some computer store and replace this one and only PC. I hate to spend my money on PCs, but sometimes you just got to do this sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, I agree with you, Andy. It could be easily just that they're just trying to get rid of inventory, and I can't find anything anywhere in Googling and searching for a 31 plus 2. Maybe it's a European thing, but if it came from the UK guys, I mean, I've seen crazier stuff getting loaded there, but it just seems odd. But if in fact the radio I like the best HT, I mean, is the 31A, but then, I'm picky about things. I appreciate that. All right, so who's next? It's up to you to decide what we're going to talk about now. Stations, please key up. Last call. We're not getting a lot of participation. I understand the news of the day is probably drawing a lot of people away. And there could be all kinds of good reasons. Maybe, well, let's see. We could beat up Fusion. Fusion 2's coming out, obsoleting, it seems. Which, of course, I don't know why we talk about Fusion. I mean, Fusion is probably the weakest link of, if all the digital modes were thrown together, which they're not, at least as far as this, the 4K transcoding, it would be the last, if at all, because it's a mess. And the radios sound the worst of all the digital radios, in my view. And now they're talking about System Fusion 2, which, according to Jonathan G for KLX, appears to be a complete re-engineering of the protocol. And, you know, one of the complaints often heard from those who invested in Fusion right out the gate at Dayton, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, is that they've had to throw a number of their radios in the dumpster because ICOM just obsoleted them. Obsoleted them, I meant to say. They absolutely obsoleted them. And now, of course, after being beat up over changing the protocol, making old radios in as little as 6 months worthless on the system, they said, oh, okay, well, we better build radios that can be updated by firmware. And, of course, that's Yaesu's response. Oh, don't worry about it. Buy all the radios you want. Even though we're bringing out a whole new slew of radios geared to Fusion 2, you can take your older non-Fusion 2 radios, and if you so desire and don't want to spend any money because you're cheap ass, you can just update them by firmware. So I tell you what, if we could put all the digital modes in a line and add them to X reflectors, I would actually vote Fusion off. But that's just me. Comments, stations, please key up.
KE0AY.
KE0AYJ, go ahead.
Okay, maybe this is the last time. I don't know. I was a few years back, well, many years back. I was actually involved in the beta testing for Yaesu and their C4FM version of it, System Fusion and whatnot. They didn't listen to the Americans very well. They didn't listen to our beta testers. There were 6 beta testers over here in the States. Now, of course, we get the free loaner radios to burn and churn on everything, find out what little problems we can find out. But all of our input seemed to have fallen on deaf ears, or the interpreter wasn't there on the other end, or something along those lines happened. It was geared towards Japanese sales and things like that, and slowly but surely, those things that we questioned were being sent back to them, and they're saying, oh, we're going to have to cover this under warranty, the pin switching diodes and things like that for the biasing on the finals on the VHF, UHF were burning out. They finally caught hold of that and listened to us. The non-active waterfall, where you have to tell it to sweep, that was an issue that we saw needed to be taken care of. But none of them listened to us. So, you know, they dug their own hole, and I prefer just let them sit in it. And I did the FTM 100 DX1, or the DR1X, the 991, and the FT1. So I did them all, and you know, got done with them, and finally got tired of falling on deaf ears and let me break it. Finally got tired of things I was stating going unanswered, or basically didn't exist in their eyes. I just shipped the radios back to them. I said, you know, I don't care to participate with you anymore. You're not listening. You're going to have problems. And here's the problems. And it was only after that they say, well, we're trying to address them. I said, well, there was no information coming back to me on what to look forward to or anything. And I don't see it addressed in any of the firmware that you could have addressed it with then. And so everything that we've incorporated into the changes for the 991, lo and behold, came out in the 991A. And problem resolved there. But I wouldn't buy it. And I'm still not going to buy it. Yeah, that's outlawed. Sounds good to me.
Yeah, you know, what we should do, I mean, Jonathan, hang on, let me reach down here, is pretty upset with Fusion over this. In fact, he's so upset, I'm going to write to him and just say, why don't you just write Fusion right out of MNDVM host? He says, you know, his FT1D is less than 2 years old, and Yaesu's about to make it obsolete, it seems. Of course, their response is, well, just, do a firmware update. We'll see. Jonathan queries, is this change an acknowledgement that Wires X wasn't a good design? And will the new protocol, Fusion 2, be published? Quote, it all sucks greatly, end quote. I'm going to suggest to Jonathan that he just writes Fusion right out of MMDVM host and just end it. It seems that the Fusion people, and this is just an observation, most of them, but not all, are nice folks. And, they want to be on their Fusion repeaters. They don't seem to want to network much except in these rooms. And, it's just a different ball game. But that's Fusion. And the Yaesu's just bending them over. I agree with Jonathan. So, we'll find out what Fusion 2 is. Not that it matters. We may actually ban Fusion from, anything that the Kings of Digital may think to do, but I'm only one vote. It just depends upon where this goes. Any comment on Fusion 2? Do you disagree with G4KLX? Do you think the Fusion should replace all other digital modes? Stations, please key up. All right, no response. So, what do you want to talk about? Topics? Questions? You can bring questions that other nets could not answer. Oftentimes they're brought here and then the answer's taken back to the other net. Or it could be your own question about D-Star, DMR, open source digital modes. Things that perhaps you've resolved and would like to report here. This is the time and place to do it. Stations, please key up. Absent any responses, I'm going to close the net for the last call. Stations, please key up. WA6PX, thanks for keying up. Go ahead.
Roger, I got a question from the net here in the Bellevue area. The question was, they can get 220 megahertz D-Star. And so the question was, why should we do that? Is there anything that will enable our young scouts and others without a lot of money to use it and get more involved in ham radio in general and D-Star in particular? I didn't have any ready answers, but I thought I'd throw it open to the experts here.
So there's a 220 D-Star repeater that is up in your area. Is that what has happened and prompted the inquiry about 220 back to you?
Well, Northwest Digital is putting up a 220 megahertz multi-mode repeater, but this club, the Lake Washington Ham Club, recently had to replace their 220 repeater with a brand new Bridgecom one. And as I understand it, Bridgecom offers pretty attractive deals for people that also put D-Star on those kind of repeaters. So they were debating, should they spend the club's money on adding D-Star to it or just stick with the FM and go somewhere else. We've got about 8 or 10 repeaters in the club there, so I don't have all the factors. I pointed out to them, the Thumb DV is a really inexpensive way to get started in D-Star, and of course it works on 220. And if you want your new scouts and stuff to use that, that'd be a great way. But they didn't want to pay $700 a pop for Kenwood handheld, so they were trying to chew on that one. I just thought I'd try and get some more input for them.
All right. Well, I think we can divide your question up into two parts. First, whether investing in 220 D-Star is a worthy event. And Northwest Digital, they have the 220 repeater. They're trying to implement it in light of the Kenwood D74. But the larger question is, if you have no D-Star repeater and you're thinking about putting one up, should it be a 220? And perhaps those that have 220 D-Star machines up of whatever ilk could comment on what they think about them. Do they get any use? Is this just a flash in the pan that is, like a solar eclipse that's going to be fleeting? Or is 220 starting to get a footprint? The second part of your question is, you don't have D-Star on the rest of the system. Would it be better to put up a repeater, or would it be better to talk the folks into doing the say hotspots and just avoiding the expense of a repeater? I think that sounds like what you're sniffing around for, and if it isn't, I apologize, but I'll frame it that way, and you can correct it later on. Stations, what do you think? What should this group do? They've got the Northwest Digital 220 machine up, excuse me, so it's not like there isn't one available in his neck of the woods. But let's take the 220 question. Well, we haven't talked about 220 in quite a while. Where's it at? Stations, please key up.
W6KD.
W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, 220 is kind of a fringy band. Right now, there's only one radio, the THD74, that operates on 220 and D-Star, and there's only one hotspot device, and that's the 220 megahertz DVAP, which is a single band, single mode device. And in this day and age of multi-mode, and particularly given that there's only one radio in the entire D-Star universe being made on 220, it's you kind of got, if you can't look yourself in the mirror and articulate why you would want 220, it's probably not something you want to do, because pretty much, every radio out there does 70 centimeters, plus there's a lot more bandwidth available on 70 centimeters I guess there's probably a fair bit of bandwidth on 220 as well. It's not widely used. But, there are some uses for it if you have, a lot of congestion, in the area you're in a dense urban area or whatever, where all the repeater pairs are taken, and there's a lot of, just a lot of traffic on the more mainstream bands. 220 might be an idea. If you want to set up if you want to set up a hotspot at a ham event like a ham fest or something like the Quartz Fest, or something like that, Yuma, it might be, if there's going to be a million hotspots on 70 centimeters and 2 meters. Let me reset and change hands. Anyway, if there's going to be, a million other hotspots on the more mainstream bands, having 220 might give you, a place to fit in without being crowded out by all the other stuff. But it's really a very, very fringe capability. And if for somebody that's on a budget or somebody just entering the mode, it's probably not the best plan, to be honest. You know, like I said, if you can't look yourself in the mirror and articulate clearly to yourself why you need 220 more than anything else, it's probably not a good idea. Back to net W6KD.
Thank you, Bob. Stations with comments on 220 D-Star, please key up. Are there stations? Well, nobody keyed up, which tonight is not surprising. And by the way, I appreciate everyone who has keyed up. But perhaps, I mean, I haven't heard from the stations. When the D74 came out, interest in 220 swelled, and Northwest Digital was properly trumpeting their thumb DV and as one way of quickly getting a hotspot on 220. Well, let me back that up. They're 220 repeater, and there are other versions, and 220 repeaters went up. Let's just put it that way. And there was a great interest in it, and we had a number of stations report that they have 220 capability because the D74 was selling very well, and I understand it continues to sell well, especially in light of the ID51A plus 2, A plus minus HC, and the 4100 plus 2 minus mobile. I wonder how activity has been on those 220 repeaters. Is it getting used? Was it just something that was fun to put up, got some use, and then nobody's on it? You got to remember that you can put up a repeater, you can put up a reflector, but if nobody's talking on it, you're not going to attract much attention to it. That is, use of it. Stations, please key up.
N9KO.
N9KO, thanks for joining us. Go ahead.
Hi, Mike and Annette. I'm in the Chicago area, and for being whatever the third largest city in the U.S. maybe, 220 is virtually non-existent. There's a few people that sing the praises of 220, but no one ever uses it in the Chicago area. And I know of no D-Star 220 machines. So I don't think it's happening. It's something that like 220, 900 megahertz, 1.2 gig. It's all these esoteric things that somebody thinks is good, but the general world out there just doesn't see the point in it. And I know I've heard this on a podcast on many occasions, primarily from Bob. W6KD is the cost of the hardware and all that, and I know that an MD380, which I own and paid about $95 for, is not a D-Star radio, which we're talking about. But it's pretty expensive to lay down 7 bills for a D-Star radio with 220 capability. I mean, Kenwood's a good radio. I'm not knocking it by any means, but just have to weigh your options. Back to you, Mike. N9K.
All right, Cal, appreciate it. Yeah, the Broadcom is an important part of putting up, or can be, and is usually offered up, or by those who want the 220 D-Star someplace to provide that capability. And in the LA basin, where I sit, I'm about 50 or so miles southeast of LA. There are a fair number of 220 repeaters. And I never hear of anybody using them, being on them. I mean, I'm sure the person or group that put them up keys them up, but the truth of the matter is that there's only one way to use them, and that's with the Kenwood radio. I suppose that, but I've yet to hear of a hotspot that can connect to a 220 D-Star repeater's gateway. That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It's just that it's never been brought to my attention here on the roundtable. So, anyway, and I can carry on about this for a while, but I'd rather hear about those that perhaps have 220 machines up. Did you take them down? Did you convert them to other use? Did you tell everybody that 220 is a mistake? I mean, I'm in LA area, as you can imagine, there are no 70 or 70 centimeter, 2 meter frequency pairs of it. Well, I mean, you can horse trade for them, I suppose, but there just are none left that are assignable. So 220 is a way, if you want to put up a D-Star repeater, to be on D-Star, because it's pretty much, you can have all the 220 pairs you want. Well, that's an exaggeration, but they're available. In fact, some of the coordinating groups in the larger metropolitan areas are encouraging use of 220. Now, they're not saying D-Star necessarily, but they're saying, hey, you got a 220 repeater, put it up. But most of them were taken down just for lack of use, and then the frequency pair was, either traded away or put to other use. Well, anyway, I still haven't heard from anybody that was running a 220 machine. Maybe you were in an area where 220 went up and it's gone, or whenever you key it up, you hear crickets. Any comments from those folks? Please key up.
KK4DTT.
KK4DTT. Welcome. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mike and the net. We have a 220 machine in Jackson, Tennessee. It's limited use. There's a couple of dozen of us on it occasionally doing rag chewing. That's about it. But our attitude towards putting it up was use the frequencies or lose them. And that's the reason that we occupy that space right now. It's KK4DTT, Tim, Jackson, Tennessee.
AJ3.
AJ3X recognized. Well, so Tim, of course. So is a 220 D-Star repeater, KK4DTT, go ahead.
Negative. It's just a 220 analog, but that's our use. And like I say, it's limited use, but we do have it up, and it is it's used occasionally.
I got it. Thanks for joining us. AJ3X, go ahead.
Yeah, Mike, we're in the process of putting up a 220 D-Star repeater in conjunction with a group on Long Island. And the reason why it's going up is the belief of use the frequencies or lose the frequencies, and not give up any more of the 220 band. Don't actually know how many people are actually going to use it. A group of about 5 or 10 guys have the D74 radios. I'm sure they'll take advantage of it, but beyond that, I don't see people running out and buying the D74 just because a 220 repeater went up in the area. Over.
KC3BIY recognized. Well, see, Joe, so do you think use it or lose it? Which I agree with you completely. Especially in the major metropolitan areas, there are stations that utilize some of the bylaws or rules of the coordinating committee, which provide that if a pair is not being used, that you can petition to take it away. And there's no more, the guys that grabbed a bunch of repeater pairs, set repeaters on them, and, there's nothing happening. That day is over with, at least as far as the LA Basin, and there's been a lot of fights over somebody, waking up one morning and saying, hey, you're trying to take my pair away. I've had it for 20 years. Well, what activity have you had on it, sir? Well, none. But that's beside the point. Well, no, it's not, because we can take it away. But do you think, Joe, that 220 is a use it or lose it situation? And if so, do you think that it, like other amateur bands that are being, taken away by the FCC and sold to the highest bidder, the 220 is subject to that? Just interested in your thoughts. AJ3X, go ahead.
Actually, Mike, I think we're at risk for all the amateur bands. You look at, in this area we have plenty of repeaters up, but the usage is, you could key up go to any frequency for any repeater in the area, and you'll get very little or no traffic. There was a repeater pair up here that was assigned to someone. They actually had the repeater off the air for quite a while. We wanted to put up a 2-meter D-Star repeater. We went to the coordinating group, and the coordinating group said, all right, we'll contact the guys who have that pair and see what's going on. And as soon as they contacted them, the guys, oh yeah, we're putting the repeater back on the air. And after being off the air for 4 or 5 years, the repeater suddenly came back on the air. But it's back on the air, and there's no traffic on it. I'm a firm believer that a lot of people just want to just put up a repeater for the sake of for saying that they have a repeater up on the air. 220 band, I think we're going to lose more of that. I think we're at risk for losing some of the 440 band, and if we're not careful, we'll lose a good portion of we'll start losing some of the 2-meter bands too. The commercial industry, commercial users out there coming up with new uses for wireless every day, and they're looking for more and more bandwidth in order to use that wireless and only a set number of frequencies. Over.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, in the LA Basin, if somebody tried to, throw up a repeater on an abandoned pair, that would not be good enough. They'd have to show that there was activity, the repeater was operating. They'll get them ripped away, and I think that's a good thing, because a lot of people got a lot of pairs back way back when on 440, and they just are sitting on them. They it's like they see repeater pairs same as infringement on their right of gun ownership. They may not ever you don't even practice with the guns, but don't you dare try to take it away, even though they it's still brand new in the box 20 years later. Same thing with pairs, but it's sad that just throwing a repeater back up is enough to overcome the lack of activity. Yeah, I agree with you. Cellular is already down in 600, and the FCC is, all these people that have huge investments in wireless mics, and a lot of course out here there's huge, radio, TV, television, movies that use wireless and for miking and other sound and just stage and whatnot. And if it was on 600, adios. I think LA is okay. San Francisco is in trouble. And I don't think it's going to be long, especially if the wireless companies, like T-Mobile has already, lit up 600 cellular in certain key areas just to show that they really mean business, unlike UPS that grabbed those 220 frequencies and then didn't do anything with them. But I agree. They're marching right on down to 440, although it's a hard argument to say that it's not being used. Because I think it's pretty packed, but then again, that, when you live in this part of town, you don't think about buying a repeater, you just think about using one. They're all over the place. All right, appreciate it, Joe. Thanks for being with us. K3CBIY. Welcome. Go ahead.
NR5G.
All right, well, I called for KC3BIY and I got NR5G instead, so Lee, stand by. KC3BIY, I got a key up. Your turn. Go ahead. Alrighty, well, you know the rules. If it was an inadvertent key up, that happens all the time. No big deal, no shame. We all do it. Just let me know so I can take you off the list. I just hate to skip a station, especially a new one that I don't have on a log that wants to be part of the roundtable. So we'll give them one more shot, but otherwise, if you're having a difficult time, because we don't quick key here, you can key back up again. KC3BIY, go. Nothing heard. No. How dare I? NR5G. Go ahead.
Yeah, good. This is NR5G, and I guess you can take me off the list. I was just listening to the net, and to be quite honest, the radio was 3 feet away from my reach, and I didn't even touch the PTT. I don't know what's going on there, but I'll continue to listen just the same.
Well, no problem. Like I said, that happens. I think that's probably the case with the earlier station, but hey, at least I know you're listening. All right. Any further comments on the advisability of putting up a 220 D-Star repeater or your experiences with same? Please key up.
W6KBM.
W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, to piggyback on the use it or lose it discussion, putting up an internet linked repeater is well, that's a strong move from the use it or lose it perspective, because as long as it's on the reflector or linked somehow to somewhere where there's traffic, you can generate activity on a frequency. Because the fact that you've got the repeater there doesn't mean anything. The fact that you're, putting a signal on the air is what's important when they, when they do the monitoring and stuff. And so anyway, if you've got a repeater linked to a reflector that's got traffic, even when maybe there isn't any local traffic on it that much, it will present a more convincing footprint to somebody that's monitoring to see if the frequency's in use. But 220s. Well, anyway, I said pretty much. I'm not going to repeat what I already said. It's it's there, and if you got a D74, it works well like the others. But anyway, back to that W6KD.
Well, I agree. If it's usually they're just analog FM repeaters that they're there's no traffic on them unless somebody keys up. But I can't imagine somebody losing a D-Star pair where all you got to do is connect the gateway to a reflector, and unless they just choose a reflector that nobody knows about, there's going to be traffic on it. I agree. All right. Well, that's part one. Part two is the quandary about how to go about infusing D-Star in an area that doesn't have a D-Star repeater, it seems. We're going back to WA6PX's question. Last week we did, and I also think the week before, debate, do you go D-Star repeater? Do you go, hotspot? What would be your first investment? Does it make sense to set yourself up to communicate on D-Star by repeater only? Or do you encourage the use of hotspots? And the consensus seemed to be, I think, that all things being equal, that a hotspot is preferable. Of course, there's, all kinds of side streets you can take on that. Do you go the expensive way, all D-Star? Or do you go the less expensive way with multi-mode hotspots and perhaps a, less expensive but equally, but decent DMR radio? There's all kinds of ways to go. Perhaps some stations that didn't weigh in on our discussions last week about that issue may want to chime in now. I know there are a lot of repeater diehards, and there are a fair number of repeaters whose gateways are linked to the constellation. And, they don't have to unlink, but they do because they, either are standalone during the week or have some other reflector. But these guys, some of them don't have a hotspot because they just love repeaters. It's just easy. On the other hand, the world in multi-mode pretty much requires a hotspot. Unless, of course, you have a multi-mode D-Star repeater, but then that's another side street or alley, and I hope to discuss the MMDVM repeaters at length next Thursday. So any thoughts? Anybody else have anything further? I don't want to belabor it too much because the discussions are available on the podcast, but, we'll see if someone who didn't chime in last time, would like to do so now. Please key up.
W60SO.
And there's Michael, W60SO. I got to tell you, I can't imagine calling a solar eclipse and nobody showing up. In this particular instance, towns are going to be ghost towns in non-solar eclipse path areas, don't you think? W60SO, go ahead.
Well, there's just been so much talk about it that I just, in my weird sense, decided to throw that in just as kind of a chuckle. There are people paying $200 a night for a hotel room. They're taking up any kind of lot they can for their RV to see the sun go down for about 3 minutes and then come back up again. I remember seeing it as a school kid in San Francisco years and years and years ago, and they told us, don't look at it, get a piece of cardboard, poke a pinhole through it, and got it for another piece of cardboard, and here they're out buying Amazon.com glasses and who knows what. Anyway, let me break for a minute, and I'll get to the subject.
Mike, before you do, take the pillow off of your mic.
Throw in on. First of all, on the emergency comm or ECOM, I'm involved with RACES. I'm involved with ARES in Southern California, primarily Riverside County. I do go into Orange County, and I gotta tell you, there is absolutely no coordination at all. D-Star is furthest from the truth. Major clubs in Southern California are billing VMR as the poor man's D-Star, and they're just selling the boatload of them. Of course, HRO is now selling the Chinese-made stuff. You can get them on the internet for $80. The people that I associate with in these clubs and these organizations primarily use old Yaesu or the new $35 Bofang. They don't want to upgrade into digital. They don't want to deal with D-Star.
I know the couple people that bought Fusion repeaters because they were cheap, but yet they can't get anybody to spend the $600 for the Fusion radio. I don't understand it. As far as 220 goes, we have a 220 repeater up in the valley, up on Oak Mountain. It was designed to be a D-Star and an analog dual-purpose repeater. There was a lot of talk about it back in March. It was donated by one of the members. Nobody talks about it anymore. I don't even know if anybody uses it for D-Star. The only one that you've got a CH-74, that's okay, but I just don't understand going out for a radio for 220 in D-Star. Now, the Kenwood radio is an advanced radio. It's a great radio. I'd love to have one, but I'm not going to buy a 220 hotspot when I already have 2 meter and 70 centimeter hotspots. It doesn't make sense. So, I think a lot of people just get caught by the gotta have the latest toy in the box, and they run that way. And it's whatever you can afford. Let me break for another minute.
Hey, Mike.
N6HK8.
Yes, you were going to come back with something, Mike.
Take the pillow off of your head. Well, I didn't mean to scare you away, but you started out like gangbusters, and it sounded like you put a pillow over your head. So somehow you're covering up the mic with something, and you were getting muffled and low volume.
Okay, this should be better. I took the hand mic off, and the radio slipped a little bit, and it changed it from my X-Reflector channel to my reboot channel, and it doesn't mix well. So anyway, that's some thoughts on it. I still think that the biggest thing that's hurting D-Star right now is the price. And if they can get a Chinese radio over here, a Bofang or a Whatsong or a Hot Walk or whatever they can, get something out here for $100 or less, I think D-Star will see a resurgence. But just in Racy's, Riverside County, they've got a half dozen ICOM D-Star radios given to them by FEMA as a grant. They don't use them the way they were intended. They use them for analog purposes only. I don't understand. They don't want to hear about hotspots. They don't want to see hotspots. I just don't know how to fix it until we get the price down. I don't see a fix. Back to you, Mike, and I'll stand by for any questions or comments.
Well, those fools there in Riverside Racy's. Well, obviously you're going to have to go in there with some, hypnotic potion or something to put those radios to proper use. I mean, it makes sense in light of our earlier discussion where all the communications resources that are being set up in the event of solar eclipse, fries the communication infrastructure. I have a tough time that AWR buys into this, but then again, it makes some sense. Let's get the amateurs out, and we'll start a rumor. But, it's all HF, and it's just mindset. And, there are some progressive, I don't mean that in the political sense, EMCOM groups, Aries Racy's, that have adopted D-Star. And there's a lot of them throughout the country that throw up, they grab D-Star and they put it to use first, and they've demoed it for the governments or whatever emergency services they help out. And, of course, they've got guys on HF still doing, traffic nets where I'm fine, how are you? 7 days later makes it across the coast. And while the D-Star guys got that done in 5 minutes or less, but then they don't talk to each other because they don't want to have fist fights. So I guess, Mike, haven't you heard about the curative effects of the solar eclipse? Shame on you poo-pooing that. Thanks for joining us. Stations, please key up. Alrighty, well, WA6PX, if you haven't gone to bed already, I mean, this took a while. So, your questions, as I decided to phrase them, generated a fair amount of activity here. Anything further, WA6PX, go ahead.
Roger, this is WA6PX. Other questions that I've been asked is, there's a couple of shortcomings people see in D-Star. Number one, they don't have a small footprint way to access a D-Star repeater, like Echolink on your Android offers for FM. And similar, there's a couple other shortcomings I mentioned. It doesn't offer scanning of channels and things. So how do we deal with those kind of issues? Back to net control. Well, maybe I didn't make the repeater, so I'll try again. I was just wondering about a couple things that are missing. People ask about
Jim, I'm not sure what to think about that. You were starting to fade away. You had a lot of packet loss, and then you had dead carrier while transmitting, and then it sounded like you had a tape replay, and I'm not sure what you're using now. You're on a different radio because the text information changed. I got the thrust. You said there were shortcomings. You can't scan, you can't do, I mean, compared to what? What is it that you guys are using on what service where scanning is a much needed, I mean, is it that everybody's leaning DMR? Is that it? WA6PX, go ahead.
No, I can't say that. It's just questions that came up in a roundtable discussion at the club meeting. I'm not sure how they're using it. Over.
Well, you know, the ICOM D-Star radios and the Kenwood D-Star radio scans. And you can scan program channels. You can scan by VFO. It's not perhaps the best way to go, but I don't know of any downside to D-Star. It's certainly superior to FM. I mean, analog FM. I don't know what you'd have to help us in order for me to call for stations to key up. I mean, to help with the discussion. So it sounds like they're happy with FM, and that's good for them. And they're analog repeaters. If you have scouts and you have people that like to put things together, if you want to save money, hotspots or access points are the best way to go. You can go everywhere and anywhere on D-Star, keeping in mind that, D-Star is everywhere where you want to be. You put up a repeater, you're limited to that repeater's coverage area. You get a hotspot, there's no limitations. You connect to the reflector of choice, anywhere local or around the world, and you're talking on D-Star. Is that kind of the area you're leaning? If so, if not, let me know, and we'll call for stations. It's just, I'm not sure what it is that they're seeing as an alternative. Because if you have analog repeaters, I mean, what are you going to do? Put up another analog repeater? That doesn't make much sense. But I'm not there. You are. WA6PX, go ahead.
Yeah, Roger. I think the scanning came up in a discussion of hotspots, and would they have to buy 10 hotspots to cover 10 different reflectors? That kind of thing. They wanted to know where the activity is and how to monitor several different channels, and I was pretty flat-footed, so I'm looking to the group here for some advice. Back to net control.
All right, anybody want to take a stab at the problem, quote-unquote, of wanting to listen to multiple reflectors at one time using hotspot stations? Please key up.
W6KDM.
W6KD, go ahead.
Okay, I've been wandering in the cone of confusion for the last 3 or 4 minutes. I don't understand the question at all. Both of you guys are kind of all over the map, and so if somebody could restate the question, maybe we could answer.
W6OSO.
Okay, KE0AYJW6OSO, recognized, standby. WA6PX. Yeah, I kind of agree with Bob. I'm going to let you state your question succinctly, because I'm interpreting it, trying to make it into something we can talk about, and I probably should not do that. WA6PX, go ahead.
Okay, one of the features of the Kenwood THD74 is scanning, and about 6 or 8 D-Star repeaters here. Set them up on the D74, we can scan across them, and each D-Star repeater is connected to a different reflector. So by listening to the scanning, we can figure out where the conversation is, the activity, and so on. The question became, how do you do that kind of scanning when you don't have 8 or 10 different D-Star repeaters? Maybe only one, or maybe none, maybe a hotspot. It's that kind of question. There's lots of reflectors out there. How do you keep track of which ones are busy and which ones aren't? So I don't know how to rephrase it, because I wasn't really articulating the question. It was someone in a club meeting there. This WA6PX, back to net control.
All right, W6KD, do you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that makes more sense now. Okay, well, there's kind of two separate issues. If you're looking for activity, if you're just looking to find activity, of course, there's a alternative that doesn't involve monitoring multiple reflectors or multiple repeaters, and that's to go to one of the various live pages or dashboards. If you have CCS turned on in your hotspot, for example, every time you key up, you'll appear on the IRCDDB live page at the IRCDDB I'm sorry, at xreflector.net. And if you go to the live page there, you'll see a real-time streaming list of people that are keying up that are either on an IRC DDB connected device, whether that's a repeater or a hotspot that actually has a separate club call and a IRC DDB login. But if you have CCS turned on, you'll appear on that list as well. So that that's one way of doing it. Monitoring dashboards, of course, is another way. But if you're looking to be able to monitor multiple reflectors, then the A answer is have multiple hotspots, and you can scan between your hotspots with your radio, and you in effect create multiple repeaters. Tiny micro repeaters in your local bubble there. And that's what I do here is set up different hotspots to different reflectors, and so that way I can set a single radio if I want to scan between the hotspots and in effect do that. There is no way of making a hotspot scan between reflectors because of the way the linking system works. It's just it's just not suited for it. You have to look for traffic, unlink, link to another one. It just flat doesn't work. So if you want to do that, the best option is to set up multiple hotspots, and then you can monitor those with a single radio. Of course, even better is to have multiple hotspots and multiple radios so that you can listen concurrently if you want. But those are really kind of the options for solving that problem. Back to the Net W610.
You can never have enough hotspots. In fact, I think the last time that somebody was inside W6KD's home, they counted 42 hotspots, and there were several packages with other hotspots in them. It just may take over his house if it hasn't already. Thank you, Bob. KE0AYJ, go ahead.
Okay, Mike. Well, I was just getting in there because I understood the question, and based upon what he was saying, he wanted to scan reflectors, and I was going to give basically the same answer that Bob just gave. Can't scan reflectors, no way to link them. The way it's linking can't be done. So, anyway, you're covered it. Talk to you later. I'll be standing by. KE0AYJ.
Well, I appreciate you keying up. There are hotspots that are inexpensive. You can spend a lot of money on them, or you can spend little money on them. Usually it's the RF device, the DVAP, that, especially with the Raspberry Pi, that has the cost. Thus, the multi-mode hotspots are becoming popular as being, first, less expensive, two, they do more than D-Star, and three, they can be accessed by a less expensive radio than the cost of the D-Star radio. But everybody's different. You can never have enough D-Star radios from my purview, but then again, I'm an idiot. W6OSO, go ahead.
Okay, well,
W6
throw my lot.
W.
The incident command structure, which was put out by FEMA and adopted by every state, city, and county across the United States, the incident commander of the disaster is the one that puts out a form or blueprint of how radio communications will be established. Basically, there is no scanning permitted in this structure. They have radio operators assigned to different tasks or organization within the incident. They'll have a resource net. They'll have an overall update net. They'll have a equipment net, and they don't want operators jumping all over the place. It causes grief and havoc. So if you get assigned to an incident, you're going to be assigned to a certain part of the pyramid, and that's where you will stay. They have people within the pyramid that are above you in the food chain that listen to the other reports, and under the I think it's the 213 form, pass the information down and across to the people that are in charge of the incident. But scanning is not an option with ICS 213. And it also depends on the size and the event of the incident. You can have a 100-acre wildfire where you call up some radio operators, and the incident commander may choose to run the whole shebang. You may run into something like we had in the Cajon Pass, the Oak Fire, and the people in San Bernardino were brought up into that one, and they had one incident commander and 3 or 4 sub-commanders for different operations within the fire. So, no, it's very strict and it's very explicit. It's actually spelled out in the study guides under ICS 100, 200, 700, 800. So, no, this is a DMR thing that they want to scan and such, and no, it isn't going to work. It's not going to fly. D-Star was proven in Katrina. It did a good job, and I think I'm timing out.
All right, Mike, thank you. WA6PX. Well, I think we've just about explored this as far as we can. Hopefully, this made some sense to you. I'll give you the final word before we move on. WA6PX, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. I appreciate the final word. Being an old software clerk, my thinking is that you could add scanning to WinDV. I could link to 5 different reflectors and scan using software on your laptop. You'd never hear it until there was a sound or something. I think there are other solutions, but I don't believe this group is we're ready to get out of the box yet, at least not tonight. Back to net control there, WA6PX.
Alrighty. Thanks for being with us. I'm out of stations. I'm out of topics. Stations, please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard. So, again, without someone keying up with a question, a topic, a comment, a correction, an observation, then I don't know how to proceed. So, stations, please key up.
NR5G.
NR5G. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mike. Just one quick question. Earlier you recognized me as a key up, and I wasn't even close to the radio, as I had explained earlier. I think I've noticed this before, but not recently. I'm just curious, has anybody else ever had this experience where they're listening to the net on this reflector, and for some reason, radio keys up all by itself? Is that something that can take place as a result of a glitch in D-Star Commander?
Well, I hope you're not implying that this net has magical qualities and can reach out and tap a radio and transmit. But seriously, so what is your setup? You have a radio, which one is it? And are you using a repeater? Are you talking to a hotspot? If so, what do you have? I got that you have D-Star Commander, which implies that you have a hotspot running, but what is it? And then we'll see if we can't find out. It doesn't happen too often in our 5G, well, except for DV4 minis, but that's another story. In our 5G, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'm running an ID51 transmitting into a DVAP with a Raspberry Pi 2B running D-Star Commander.
Alrighty, so any reason that anyone would think that would cause this particular setup to transmit on its own while in our 5G is not looking? Station, or at least not in the vicinity. Stations, please key up.
W6KD.
W6KD, go ahead.
Well, it's kind of rare to see it with a DVAP, but the DV Megas will occasionally. I don't know if the firmware gets confused or resets or whatever, but typically if you see RSNC for resync in the four-letter tag field, that's a DV Mega that's somehow got wonky. And anyways, a lot of times those are uncommanded key ups. With a DVAP, I don't know. If there's another radio nearby, or I don't know. It's not a common issue with a DVAP and the G4KLX based software, but I suppose it can happen. But if you have another station nearby, or there's the possibility of intermod if you have multiple hotspots. It's possible, but it's not a common occurrence, except with the DV Mega, and that's because of the firmware. And then the DV4 minis seem to have a mind of their own. They like to just sort of key up on their own from time to time as well. It's a behavior that I've observed for quite some time. And anyway, that's what I know about W6KD.
K6KD.
Thank you, Bob. K6KD, go ahead.
Well, I believe I've seen that very seldom, but with a DVAP, and the best I can tell is just a little temporary glitch in the internet connectivity, and so that the logic feels it needs to resync again, even though it's already synced, and that would show up as an errant key up. Back in it.
Thanks, John. I went back through my notes, and it's been over 2 years since we had a report of a Raspberry Pi DVAP with a ICOM radio inadvertently keying up, and in that instance, it was an accessory external mic that was, somehow either the cord was frayed. From the notes, it's hard to say, but once the accessory mic was removed from the radio, that particular problem went away. Otherwise, it's very rare. Let me just check to see if anyone else has a suggestion on this unusual occurrence. We'll take you now. Please key up.
W6KD.
W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, I failed to mention a couple of the other potential causes. If you have GPS position reporting turned on, with a time delay, that of course will drive the radio to key up at the whatever interval is set in the radio, and of course voxes and that kind of thing can result in a radio keying up by itself as well. So if it it doesn't necessarily have to be the hotspot; it could be something coming from the radio as well.
Sure. All right. Well, anyway, in our 5G, I mean, other than accessory mic, I mean, it's just, I bet it never happens again. It just happened once, and gosh, sometimes without reports like yours, it's hard to say that this is something that can be fixed. It could be just one of those things. Anyway, back to NR 5G with further comments, if any. Go ahead.
Okay, Mike, I do have a comment, and this is directed towards Bob. He mentioned something showing up in the call sign, I think, in the call sign data strip, where it says RSNC. Just recently, I was the owner of a DV Mega board attached to a Raspberry Pi 3 that was programmed with D-Star Commander. I sent that off to another individual so he could use it and get off of the RF repeaters. And in the last week, I have made contact with him, and I noticed that on his call sign data stream, following his call sign, he was transmitting the letters RSNC. Could you explain to me what the RSNC is supposed to mean? Over.
W6KD, go ahead.
Yeah, well, the DV Mega will insert that RSNC when the firmware. I'm not sure if it's an anomaly or if it detects some sort. Anyway, it appears to be some sort of a internal error correction or recovery type mechanism, and so anyway, if it detects some sort of a anomaly in the firmware, it will, in fact, a lot of times it'll just transmit on its own and say RSNC, and sometimes it'll show up when you transmit it, and even though your radio might have your name in there or your ID 51 or something like that, this is generated by the DV Mega itself, and it comes out of the firmware. That's the best explanation I can give for it. I'm not sure exactly what criteria trigger it, but it's definitely coming from the DV Mega, and it well, I mean, if you have a spotty internet connection, you'll see it much more often, which was what leads me to believe that it's some sort of a it sounds like almost like the firmware is recovering or restarting and resyncing the things to the connection that's currently active, etc. So that's the best I can offer. Is it comes from the DV Mega. It usually doesn't get in the way too much, but that's what's happening.
I appreciate it. Other stations with comments on the RSNC text field following the call sign on DV Megas when they're going, and I'll use the technical term wonky, please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard. I have yet to see or have anybody comment on a fix to it. It's just one of those things. Tonight, if you were watching on a call history or on WinDV or something like that, you would have seen several stations with RSNC following their name, and usually there were multiple key-ups. Now, while the packet loss was not enough for me to comment on it, the stations with RSNC usually just enough packet loss to cause it at least on my end, to show multiple key-ups, although, the packet loss on listening to them, it was, negligible loss. But sometimes it just does it repeatedly, and you can fill up a screen and it will scroll beyond it. Of course, in that case, that would be extreme, and you normally don't hear anything. But I don't have a note here on there being a fix. It's just one of the things that sometimes happens. So with that, in R5G, back to you.
All righty. Well, I think I've got some good information now to track down the problem. It sounds like it might be coming from my DV Mega that I once owned, and that chip did have D-Star Commander on it, and it may have been maybe he got a hold of it and plugged that in instead of another image. Nevertheless, I know where to go look now, and that was good information, Bob. Thank you very much, and enjoy the net, Mike, in R5G.
I'm glad to hear that, and good luck. Well, at least you kept the one that you should keep, and if you're going to donate one to another ham, and that's a good thing. It's much like sometimes the errors that you see on your screen on your D-Star radio, they don't mean much, and normally they don't interfere with operation. They're just there. And it's not too often that they're well, anyway, we've discussed RNC enough to where I don't need to belabor it. But cool question. All right, stations, please key up. Anything further for this edition of the Thursday Night D-Star Roundtable before we bring it to a close? I will entertain thoughts on the positive effects, both physically, emotionally, and just worldly in general, that you might be looking forward to experiencing, assuming that you're traveling to a location along the path of the total eclipse. I can't imagine a partial eclipse having much effect at all, other than just being annoying to those who don't, appreciate such events. But perhaps those that, like myself, who decline to travel to an area of a solar eclipse, although the travel would be pretty, it's not like it's just a car drive, but still, that you might be convincing to where, if I thought perhaps that I could regain my hair, I'm not bald, but I am, starting to lose hair, or any number of other physical ills that might be cured by being in the path of the eclipse, or perhaps I might be able to speak several languages by, observing it in the proper location. Sure like to hear about it. I'd be willing to spend the money and jump in with the crowd if it's worth it. And there may be others also so inclined, depending upon what they hear. Stations, please key up.
KE0AYJ.
KE0AYJ. So you're trying to cure dandruff by being in the solar eclipse? Andy, go ahead.
No, but I'm going to test my development that I just made and concocted here. Make sure I don't get moonburn. Because the sun, behind the moon, it's going to be baking that moon a lot. And those rays right off the edge of the moon, called knife edge diffraction, are going to hit us directly, and you could get a severe moon burn. So I'm going to be testing that. And if it works, I'll let you know and send you a little jar of it.
Oh, hey, I appreciate it. I hadn't thought about the possibility of the moon being hurtled towards Earth because of the effect of the solar eclipse on it, although it causes it, but that's beside the point. I'm hoping that's not the case. I mean, that would be disastrous. But I get it, and it's fun. I'm making a list of all the good and bad things that could happen to those. It would be tragic if all of the participating stations and those that listen that end up in the path of the eclipse and get vaporized and can no longer participate in the roundtable. That would be sad. Stations, please key up.
K6KD W6KDM.
I have K6KD and W6KD. K6KD, go ahead.
Another option for watching the eclipse is the Royal Caribbean, the Oasis of the Seas, is going to be sailing from Orlando on the 20th, and they're going to have a special guest star, Bonnie Tyler, who has the 80s song Solar Eclipse of the Heart. So she'll be singing that during the solar eclipse of the sun and on the cruise. Back to Ned.
Yeah, I'm sure that's sold out by now, but appreciate it. Yeah, I guess if you, can paddle your way out off the Oregon coast and, be in a position to be among the first to experience it, that might be worthwhile. I'm not sure that being on a cruise ship, a cruise line, and having entertainment is important. It'd be more important to find out, what would happen. I mean, if you're on a cruise ship and the engine dies, what happens to the cruise ship? Does it just kind of float away? I don't know. I appreciate it, John. W6KD, go ahead.
Well, I'm kind of bummed about this eclipse because it's not going to Nova Scotia, so I can't fly my Learjet up to see the total eclipse of the sun. So I guess I'll have to be with some underworld spy or the wife of a close friend, because I'm so vain.
I'm going to have to download that song. That would be appropriate. All right, anybody else with any further advice on how we should act or react on the 21st? Take you now before I bring the roundtable to a close for tonight. Please key up. All right, nothing seen or heard. I think this is probably a good time as any to conclude tonight's roundtable. Absent any objections, of course, how are you going to object when I'm keying down? So, nevertheless, I presume that there are none. I want to thank everyone who participated because, as you know, without your participation, there would be no roundtable. I really, truly hope that everybody that does travel on Monday to participate in viewing the total solar eclipse along its path enjoys themselves. I hope they make it back safely, and it would be excellent if somehow you guys could think to take just a moment, even if it's right after the eclipse passes, that you could come to the constellation and tell us how it went. Not just your observations of the eclipse, assuming you can still see afterwards. But, you know, you know, what's happening around you, the mass hysteria. Are people, you know, running into each other? You know, is it going to be tough to leave because everybody crashed their cars? Did you observe people running off the road? Did you know, cellular cameras melt in their hands because there was no viewing shield put over the camera's lens? I mean, you know, were people looking at their cameras and trying to use that as a shield and ended up melting their face? You know, those kinds of observations would be, you know, welcomed here on the Constellation because, well, we'll be up and running and there will actually be a net control, not me, to take your comments. So, the shout box is going to get cleaned up and posted in the shout box history. The much heard podcast, if not late tonight, first thing in the morning, being Friday for me, tomorrow morning. And I look forward to listening carefully to the Constellation as we come towards Monday. And if you're driving there, heck, get on D-Star and say hi-de-ho. So without further ado, I want to let me back up. I had fun tonight. I hope everyone enjoyed both the serious technical discussions as well as the humor. Be sure to visit the Constellation, solar eclipse or not, whenever you feel like you like to try something different. We're here all the time. Usually someone's around. Everyone have a great weekend. Stay safe on Monday. In 6HKH. Good night.